Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya. Text 16. Karmanya nihasya bhavo bhavasyati durgashayotai bhayat palayanam kalatmanayat pramadayutashrama svatmanratih kijati dirvidamiha. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter of a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Purport. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them, because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss. But some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory, even to such pure devotees, and thus Uddhava asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and it is actually so, because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory then to hear that the Lord personally lifts the Govardhan hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is the Supreme Brahman, the Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead appearing like a man. But Uddhava had doubts whether he could have so many transcendental activities. There is no difference between the personality of Godhead and the impersonal Brahman. How then can the Lord have so many things to do, whereas the impersonal Brahman is stated to have nothing to do either materially or spiritually? If the Lord is ever unborn, how then he is born as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet the Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasandha and takes shelter in a fort. How can one who is full in himself take pleasure in the association of many women? How can he take wives and, just like a householder, take pleasure in the association of family members, children, relatives, and parents? All these apparently contradictory happenings bewilder even the greatest learned scholars, who thus bewildered cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only imitations. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by mundane speculators. For the mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment, but for the transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the Absolute Truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities, but the Para-Brahman conception is full with transcendental activities. One who knows the distinctions between the conception of the Brahman and the conception of the Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such transcendentalists. The Lord himself also declares in Bhagavad-gita 10.2, even the great sages and demigods can know hardly anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. The right explanation of the Lord's activities is given by grandfather Bhishmadev in Bhagavatam 1.9.16 as follows. Nahyasya karhi chitra jan puman veda viditsitam yat vichikyasa yukta mukyanti kaviyogihi. Hare Krishna. So we can see that Uddhava is explaining that even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that the Lord, that your greatness, the Lord, of course, engages in fruitive work, although he is free from all desires, that he takes birth, although he is unborn, and that he flees out of fear of the enemy and takes shelter in the fort, although he is the controller of invincible time, and that he enjoys householder life surrounded by many women, although he enjoys in his self. Yes. So the Lord is inconceivable to the materialists. One cannot understand him by speculating or thinking deeply, or even if one is religious, one cannot understand the Lord. Yes, and here Prabhupada repeats, it's mental speculators, mundane speculators. This is bewilderment. But devotees understand that everything is Krishna's lila, what's happening. And um, if we see that your greatness uh, engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, says Uddhava. So, this fruitive work is in fact just teaching the conditioned souls how to perform their duties dutifully. Yes, because in Dvaraka, Uddhava, of course, is Krishna's devotee from Dvaraka, Mathura and Dvaraka. And Krishna very diligently performed his duties in Dvaraka. For example, when Narada Muni came to visit Krishna, he was astonished to see Krishna to be at the same time engaged in different activities in different parts of the day, in different palaces. So everything was going on simultaneously. And Krishna performed everything in one body. Not that he expanded in many bodies, but he performed all these activities in one single body. Okay. And in different times and different parts of the year. Okay. Simultaneously.
Wonderful.
Yes. So he was completely astonished. And not that he was alone, but he was accompanied with his associates, dear associates. There was always his mother and father with him, and Uddhava was there, and other friends were there. Of course, he didn't have all 16,000 queens at the same time at the same place, but he always resided in all of his palaces, all 16,108 palaces, with his 16,108 queens. So every queen thought that she completely charmed the Lord, and so he became completely subservient to her, and the other her co-queens are suffering terribly in Lord's separation, because he's always with her alone. And not just queens considered the Lord to be just with them. Also the inhabitants of this district, of this palace, considered that the Lord is only in their vicinity, in their palace, with their queen. And they saw the Lord, how he went out of the palace to the assembly hall, and that the Lord went just from this palace to the assembly hall, and others from different quarters of the town. They saw the same for the Lord, that he came from their direction. And when they happened to went to different quarters of the town, they saw that the Lord is not there. Because the Lord was always in their quarters of the town. So, and then Lord really came from all quarters of the town, in fact. And when he entered the assembly hall, he entered into one body. He appeared in one body in the assembly hall. Yes. And when he married all these 16,000 queens, because he took them from Narakasura, and he married at once all 16,000 queens. He manifested also all his family and friends. They were celebrating marriage together, because he cannot be just alone with his wife, but all his family members would be with him. So it's inconceivable if we see it from material point of view. Yes, and so Narada explained. His vision was that that Lord performed his dutiful activities in every single palace. In one palace, he served guests, he accepted brahmanas, he was giving out gifts. In one palace, he was practicing fighting with sword. In other palace, he was meditating upon himself. in morning, performing his morning duties. So he was very beautiful. He was very beautiful, and here Uddhava expresses that even learned sages are bewildered because the Lord is free from all desires. Why he would do anything? Yes. And then they are bewildered that Lord takes birth, although he is unborn. Lord is always existing, so he is unborn, but he still, and he has eternal mother and father. So he is never born, in fact, because he is always existing, and always has his mother and father. But he nevertheless always takes birth, also, because it is explained that this Lord's Leela is always ongoing, never stops. So, and it's compared to the sun. When the sun goes down, sets in one place, it rises on another part of the world. So, this is the same is with Krishna Leela. Always rises somewhere and sets somewhere else. So he's eternally taking birth, and he is simultaneously eternally non-born. Yes, unborn. And he flees out of fear of the enemy and takes shelter in a fort, although he's controller of invincible time. Yes, and this fleeing out of fear is also his lila, because he defeated Jarasandha 18 times before. He fled from him, and alone he destroyed 18 Akshakinis of Jarasandha. This is as much Akshakinis of soldiers had Kauravas and Pandavas together on the Kurukshetra field. And he defeated him 18 times, I think, or 17 times. 17 times. 17 times. And every time Jarasandha came with 18 Akshakinis of soldiers.
Wasn't it both Krishna and Balram together?
Yes, together. They together defeated completely, and Krishna didn't want Jarasandha to be killed. They captured him every time, and then humiliated him by letting him go. Just let him be free to gather another army of demons to kill them again and again and again and again, 17 times. But then he decided that the time for his Dwaraka Lila has appeared, and he and Balaram apparently escaped from Jarasandha and created the fort Dwaraka, in the middle of the sea. And this was also astonishing Leela, because the inhabitants of Mathura went to sleep, and in the morning they woke up in Dwaraka, in palaces of Dwaraka, extremely opulent palaces of Dwaraka, and they were completely astonished. How could they be transferred to some completely other place? And this was apparently a great danger for Mathura, because Jarasandha came with the 18th time with his 18 Akshakinis of soldiers, and then also Kalayavana came there, the Yavana demon, who wanted to fight someone who is at least can offer some resistance. He wanted to have some opponent, just like Vanasura. And Narada Muni explains to him that only Krishna is capable of fighting with him. But Krishna came out of the Mathura without any weapon, and he just walked by Kalayavana and started running, apparently out of fear also from Kalayavana. And Kalayavana recognized the Lord, although he didn't see him before, because Narada explained how beautiful the Lord is. So by Lord's beauty he recognized the Lord. And he was running after the Lord, and the Lord just slowly walked, but he couldn't reach the Lord. And he was just about to grab the Lord, but he was always too short to grab the Lord.
Which is like some nightmare.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. He nearly grabbed the Lord, but he was always too short. And then the Lord went to some cave, and when Kalayavana entered behind him, he saw a sleeping man there, and he was thinking, now he just escaped and now he's sleeping here like a baby. He was completely frustrated and disturbed by a long chase after Krishna, and he kicked the lying man as strongly as he could. But this was not Krishna. This is Muchukunda sleeping there. Muchukunda was sleeping there because he was enjoying the boon of the demigods. He was fighting for the sake of the demigods for ages, and because he was extremely powerful. So long he was fighting for them in the heavenly planets, then all his contemporaries in this world died long ago, because the time it was different in heavenly planets than on earth. So he was completely alone. His wives were gone, his children were gone, his kingdom was gone, everything was gone. But nevertheless, these demigods always wanted him to protect them. So he decided to ask for, because they offered him a boon, and he asked for apparently more big boon to be just sleeping, and if anyone disturbs his sleep, he could make how is the word? He incinerate him with his eyes.
Burn him to ashes.
Yes, burn him to
Ashes.
so because Kalyavana disturbed his sleep, he just he just slowly opened his eyes angrily. Who is disturbing his sleep now? And he saw this Kalyavana there, and he just burned him to ashes. Yes, and then he saw, and the Lord came from his hiding, and so beautiful Lord, and he was not convinced who it is, who he is, but then he recognized his own Lord. He was in fact praying to have a personal association with the Lord, and he received it by Lord's grace. Okay.
And who was that other big fighter for the demigods that also got a blessing, and he asked them, how long do I have to live? And they said, oh, actually we have just...
Yes.
So he was also one of those type of Muchakunda types.
It's a really good fighter.
Yes, but he then he had just a moment of life.
Yeah, and then he just
Surrendered.
prepared, left immediately.
Good going.
Yes. It's not so much known. I don't think he's mentioned in Bhagavatam. Katvanga. Is it? Is he?
I don't know.
Maybe it's from Sri Sampradaya.
Yes. So, yes, and then the Lord tricked also Muchukunda because Muchukunda was from different yuga, and he was extremely tall, and he cannot be his associate in the end of Dwapara Yuga because the enemies of the Lord would be like small mosquitoes from Muchukunda. He was mismatched for everyone in this world. So he just ordered him to go to Bhadarkashram to meditate there, associate with sages, and then he will obey him after the end of his life. Yes.
And wasn't he shocked like how trees are small?
Yes, and then he came out of the cave and he saw that the trees and animals and everything is extremely small, and he understood that Kali Yuga is approaching, and so he just went.
Get out of here.
Okay. And then the Lord came back to Mathura. Yes, I came back to Mathura, and Balaram and Krishna didn't want to fight Jarasandha, just escaped. Questions?
So you said that Lord's pastimes are non-stop, just like right at the sun. So like if we talk about Krishna's pastimes, like now this moment, it's happening now. So it means it's like new news. It's not. It's just happening now. It's
Yes.
compared to other things that happen in the material world. When you bring them up, you get bored of it. You don't want to hear it anymore. But even though most of the time we say these pastimes happened 5,000 years ago, but actually they're still current.
Yes.
They're current affairs.
Yes.
So is that why? But why do we feel like they're old news? That's probably my question.
Why do we feel that
Why do
they're
we put
all
like a material kind of
perspective?
on it? Yeah.
Because we live in material world, and in this area that we live, it happened 5,000 years ago. And so, according to our conditioning, because of our conditioned nature, we cannot see now those pastimes. And in history of this world, they were performed 5,000 years ago. So, for example, when there is night, he said that there is no sun. The sun set 5 hours ago, for example, 3 hours ago. So there is no sun, and it was very hot, very bright sun yesterday. Understand my point? So we discuss as the sun is not existing anymore. But we know that the sun is shining on the other parts of the world. And somewhere it is seen more brightly and somewhere it's not. So it's the same with our experience of Krishna's Leela. Sometimes we can perceive Krishna's Leela and sometimes not. And when we don't perceive Krishna's Leela, we discuss about it as it is not existing anymore because of our conditioning. But if we discuss about the truth of it, even if we discuss the truth about the sun, we know that the sun is always shining, that it's not gone, it's not destroyed. So also it's the same with Krishna's Leela. If we are thinking about the tattva, the absolute truth about Krishna's Leela, we know that Krishna's Leela is always ongoing and it's now current affair. But from our perspective, it ended 5,000 years ago in this world. Have any other question?
I was wondering, like, how can you come to the stage of, like, say we see like something happening, like Facebook Live, YouTube live stream.
Yes.
It kind of, it has that kind of. You're more enthusiastic because it's live for some reason.
Yeah.
So obviously Krishna's person is alive, always.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Simultaneously. So I mean, how to always remember that kind of thing, or how to experience that kind of excitement that's a new thing.
It's live and it's also recorded.
It's not even recorded.
Here in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures. So because we cannot see them live, we can see the recordings.
We have to see recordings.
Yes.
Okay.
Through scriptures.
We have to see the recordings first.
Yes.
Okay.
But Lord's pastimes are so wonderful, not like these recordings of YouTube Live or Facebook Live or anything like this. If we purify our existence, our consciousness, then they can manifest life in our heart.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the spiritual potency of these pastimes.
Mm-hmm.
So and when we get purified by hearing and chanting the Lord's glories, also with reading them, they become life to us, and they have effect on our consciousness. Also, of course, YouTube and Facebook recordings have effect on our consciousness.
Yes.
But this is purifying effect, and some Maya representation has, of course, effect of bounding us even more and more and more.
There was a verse that talked about spiritual television. I think there's like a book about it.
I can't remember.
I think it's.
The verse that you have.
I had a class by Sachinanda Swami, and he was mentioning. I'll try and find the verse.
spiritual television.
Yeah, like
From where it is?
I think second canto. Sure.
Second canto. Maybe.
Second canto, chapter 9, verse 35. The man with a profound knowledge cannot understand, although by material science one can see things far away by means of television. Factually, the spiritually developed person is able to have the television of the kingdom of God always reflected within his heart.
And this is purport.
Isn't it purple? That is the mystery of the knowledge of the personality of Godhead.
Yes, yes. This purport, it's not verse.
No, yeah.
Chaturshloki, yes.
Chaturshloki,
I think the second verse of Chaturshloki. Tirtam yapratyeta napratyeta chatmanu tadvidetatmano mayam yatavasoitatma. Yes, and it is explained that whatever seems to exist without the Lord is just Maya, just false representation, just like television, maybe. Because Lord is always existing and everything is emanating from Him, as explained in first chapter, first shloka of Chaturshloki. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Bhagavatam Grantha ki jai. Nitai Gaur